Hello everyone, good morning, good evening according to your time zone. So let's wait for 5 minutes for more people to join and then we will get started. Meanwhile, let me know if you are able to hear my voice clearly. Okay, so let's get started. So we are in session 9, call Apex method imperatively in Lightning Web Component. So I hope you are doing the practice, and if you have any doubts, please post in chat session. So people will be answering there, and at the end of the session I will try to resolve as many questions of yours. So please put your questions there in the chat section, and in case you have any issue with the voice, just let me know, ping in the chat, and I will be able to resolve it. So subscribe to my channel so that you can get the notification whenever I am live and get the latest updates. So we are doing live session on Sundays 8 p.m. IST, 10:30 a.m. EST and 7:30 a.m. PST. So please join on the below timings. So today topic is about calling an Apex method imperatively. But before that, let's have a quick revision on the calling Apex method from the Lightning Web Component. So let's see how we do that. So calling Apex method from Lightning Web Component. So first thing is that we import the Apex method. Then we have functions in JavaScript. So the way we call function, it can be using wire service, which we have understood in the previous session, or we can do call imperatively, which we will learn today. And if we are talking about the wire service, so it is wire apex method to property or wire apex method to a function. If we are talking about the wire apex method to a property, so basically then whatever data we want to display, we display as it is. If we want to do some kind of modification, then we use the function. And today we will be discussing about imperatively, and then what is the difference between wire service and imperative, and also about some interview questions on that, and we will be having some projects which we will be building so that we can understand it completely. So the steps to access Salesforce data using Apex. So what we said is call Apex method from Apex class into JavaScript. So we import the Apex method, right? So that is it is the step one, that call method from Apex class into the JavaScript. And then the step two is call an Apex method as function into Lightning Web Component. So it's a revision from the previous session. There I've explained in more detail. So let's see how to use Apex to access Salesforce data. Now, whether it's wire service or Apex or imperative, it remains the same. That what we do is import the Apex method name from, and then we put this, the class name and the Apex method reference. So whatever is the Apex method, we will be putting it here. And we need to put namespace. If we don't need to put namespace as it is in the same namespace, if it is in different, then we need to put in. So that is the first step. Now the second step is that we have to have the function, call the function in the JavaScript. So for that we can do using a wire a property, which we have covered, wire function, or call a method imperatively. So we have understood that we should use Apex only if there is a complicated data which we cannot import using other means. But when we are doing that, so we have to check that there are other easier way to get the data. If there is my voice very low? Okay, sure. Um, Taylor, should I repeat little? Should I go back or should I start from here? Gyan, am I audible? Okay, sure. Okay. So, okay, I'll just go a little before. So, basically, the step one is that call method from Apex class into JavaScript, and next is to call an Apex method as function into Lightning Web Component. So, the step one we have discussed already in the previous session, to call Apex method from Apex class into JavaScript. For that, we import the Apex method name, we put the class name, and then we put the Apex class method. So that we will be checking in a while that how we do it, but that's how we import it. So there is Apex method name, and that we use in the function when we are using. Then the reference, that is the Apex method to import, the class name, and the namespace we use. So if the same namespace is there, then we don't need to do it, otherwise we need to do it. And the second step is to call an Apex method as function. So we do it using via a property or via a function, or call a method imperatively. So before we are thinking about using Apex method either through wire service or through imperatively, we should check if there is easier way to get the data, that we will be discussing in next sessions. So you should be happy to know that the big part about wire service and imperative we are covering today. So now the next sessions, there is easier way to get the data, they are not as complicated, because we will be covered with getting the data through Apex. Now, to understand, we say that there are two ways, but we need to understand that what is the difference between wire versus imperative and when to use what. So, basically, whenever we want to have the control in the invocation, then we use imperative. That is, on a click of a button, do something. So, there is when we want to have the control. So, we are using imperative. So, basically, when we are using imperative, that is on a click of a button, and there's some more example which I will show, and we get a single response. But when it is about wire service, we get a stream of response. And in wire service, what happens is we get data or error, object of wire, but in imperative we get promise. So don't worry, we will be understanding that in little bit more detail. But to understand clearly, when we want to get the list of data and we don't want to make any changes, that time we are using wire. And when we want to make some modification like DML operation, that time we are using imperative. And when we want to have some more control, then we are using imperative like click of a button. But when we just want to load the data, then we are using wire. Now, use case for wire versus imperative. So like I just said, that if we want to get single or list of records without modification, any value we want to just return, so that time we are simply using wire. But imperative, for example, on the click of button, perform some custom validation of related data on a record page, or send related data to external system, or show a custom toast to user based on a result in Apex. So these are some of the examples. So what we have to understand is, whenever we want to control the invocation, that time we are using imperative, otherwise we are using wire. Okay, fine, this is the reason why we use. But what are the best practices? So it is always recommended to use wire over imperative whenever we can. For example, when we just want a list of records, we can do that using imperative and also using wire. So with wire we have already seen, we can again just view it. With imperative also we can do the same. So our objective is to get it through wire whenever possible. And whenever we are doing DML operation, that time we cannot get it through wire, so that time we have to use imperative. But whenever possible, use wire. And even in wire we should prefer wiring to a property over writing to a function. So what does it mean is that, so if we want to wire to a property, we simply write wire, and then we write the apex method name, and so the property to which we want to wire, and that's it. And this property we use in the template, and then we are able to get the data. So that simple it is. But we will see with imperative we have to write much line of codes. So whenever possible, use wire, and in that also whenever it is appropriate, use wire property. So wire method takes care of the entire life cycle, including fetching, calling the method, updating the attribute, refreshing the UI. So you just see, right, that we just wrote one single line, and the entire, we were able to get the whole list of records. So that is much lesser code as compared to when we are using imperative. So whenever possible, use the wire. Now that we are clear that when to use what, we can understand about the exposing the apex method. So again, the method must be static, method must be either global or public, and we have to annotate with aura enabled. These are the same as wire service. So even if we are using wire, we expose apex method in the same way, but the cacheable equal to true is mandatory in wire, but not mandatory when we are talking about imperative. So that is what we need to remember. Now let's see use apex method imperatively. So basically I got it from the official Salesforce presentation. So if you see this, get contact list. So this is get contact list. It is the apex method. It is having the contact controller. It is inside the contact controller. Contact controller is nothing but the apex class, and get contact list is the apex method. Now what is happening, we have written the get contact list. Now what is get contact list? So if you go back, this is the apex method name. It doesn't need to be same as the apex method reference. That is something to remember. It is just the symbol which we identify later, but we don't need to have it the same. But whatever name we are putting here in the for example, here we are putting get contact list. Instead of that, I could have just put get contact, but the same name I should have put it here. So for example, this is get contact list. We don't need to match this name with this name, but we need to match this name with this name. So that is what we need to remember. The second point is that we are using JavaScript promise. Don't worry, we will be discussing it in detail, but this is how we write it. So we say get contact list, and then we use promise to get the result, and if there is error, so then it will go inside the catch and then display the error. So and there is a JavaScript function inside it, we write it. So we will be doing it in detail, but this is the example use case of how we write it. Now we just discussed that there is JavaScript promise. So like we say, right, that it is good to know JavaScript before learning Lightning Web Component. This is one of the reasons. So we talked about promise, right? So it is coming from the promise in JavaScript. So let's have a quick detail on this. So basically promise objects helps in representing either completion or failure. So if you see, it is having the promise prototype then and promise prototype catch. Let's go back and see. We have then and we have catch. And what happens is that, for example, there is a promise, either it fulfills or reject, as in either we get the result or we get the error, right? So either it happens or it doesn't happen. So if it fulfills, then it goes to then and it takes the asynchronous action. And if it is rejected, then it goes to then, and then on rejection, and then it will be doing the error handling. So like that it works. And then you can chain it with another promise, but and then again we either go with then or either go with catch. But the thing is, what we have to remember, that when it is fulfilled, then we put inside then, otherwise we put inside catch. So we just discussed about promise, prototype, then. So just little bit more detail. So it returns a promise and it takes two arguments. You can see success or failure. So for example, here is then, and here we are putting the value, and if we do the console log, so the value, this is the value, right? So it is having success, so we get the success. Don't worry, we will be doing it in Lightning Web Component in more detail. I'm just giving you a brief overview from where it actually came. So it came from promises, and here we will be seeing that, okay, in the then we put the value, and then we can print the value. So whenever we are getting the data, so we are putting in then, and then we can pass it in the property. So there is a property contacts. So the whatever the value is, results, which we have passed here, we are passing in the property, and then the same property we can put in the template. And if there is error, then we are passing in another property which we have declared and passing in error. So this is how then works. Now promise, prototype, catch. So the catch method returns a promise and deal with only rejection cases. So if you see here, we have said some error, and there we are putting the console error, so it is giving us the error message which we have put here. So the thing to remember is that catch method only gives us the rejection cases, and then basically it returns the success, whatever is coming, the data, it is bringing that to us, and then we can store it in our property. So that's how it works. So if we go back, this is our JavaScript promise, and that we use in Lightning Web Component in case of imperative. And just to go back a little bit more, so instead of resulting a data error object of wire, so in wire we get either data or error, here we get results in a promise, that is then or catch. Then one of the most important thing is iteration, like using the for each in the template, because when we get the list of data, we always have to use the iteration to do it. So again, here we are just simply using for each, and whenever we want to iterate, so for example we are passing it in a property, so that property name is contacts, so for each contacts, and then we can put any name here, it is the current item, and then we are putting the id, that is unique, and then for example we want contact.name, so it is name. So if you observe, even when we were talking about wire, it remained the same when we are talking about wiring in function. When we are talking about wiring through property, we had to use contacts.data, but when we are talking about wiring through function, we were exactly writing the same code snippet in the template. The only thing which was different is the JavaScript code, where we are using promise here. So now let's see with the demo. So let's understand with a basic example, and then we will proceed ahead. And let me know in the comment section if you have doubts meanwhile. So here what we have done is, we have created a function called handle load, and here we have used get contact list. So this is same as get contact list, and then we are getting the result or error. So whatever the result is there, we are passing in the contacts property, and then whatever error is there, we are passing in the error, and then we are displaying that in our HTML. So if we go back in the HTML, what we have done is we have created a button, in the button we say that what when to perform this action on the click of button, that is on the handle load. So we have put on the handle load perform this action. And then when we have said that, then we say that if contacts is there, then only iterate over it if it is true. And then you have seen the same thing that for each we use contacts, here we use the current item, and this name whatever we use, if we say this as the same name we have to use here, and then the same name we have to use whatever we are putting in the item, the same we have to put here also. So like that we are able to get name and phone. So we will be doing some console log and modification and seeing how exactly it works, but let's see the output first. So you can see apex imperative method, and on click of a button we are loading it. So let me do the inspect. Right now we have not put any console log. So once I click on load contacts, so what is happening, I'm getting the name, and whichever is having contact is having phone number, it is displaying the phone number as well. So if I go back here, what we need to observe is that because we want name, phone, email, whatever we want, we need to put contact ID before that, and then we have to pass between them these things. So basically if you write something like, for example, let me go to contact master, and we are using this particular method. So we are getting ID, name, title, phone, email. So for example, if I want to get title, so simply what I will do is, so like that if I do, and there is no error coming. But if I write something like this, it will throw error. Now why it is throwing error? Because it will say missing key for element inside of iterator. So which means that iterator is mandatory and we need to have it. So whenever we want to we want it to get iterated, we have to put inside this one. So we have to again go back and write it like this. So that's how we are be able to do it. Now this is how we write the code. Now let's put some console log to understand how exactly it works. So I said that it comes either in result or error. So whatever value we are getting, so we are putting in the result in the then, and that we are storing in the property. So let's see that. So we are getting in the result, and then whatever basically this whatever we are querying, like name, title, phone, email, all of that we are getting in our result. And then if we want to check that we are passing the same in the contact, what we need to do is, and then we can put as contacts. Why I'm showing you why it is important, because we need to know how to debug it, because sometimes value doesn't pass properly, and once we know how to do it, then it is easier for us to do. That's why I'm just checking that how we actually debug. And then when if it is error, simply the same thing, we put it inside the error. So I'm deploying the source to R. So now if I go back here and let me refresh it. So what you will observe is that we are getting the result, and then we are saying that contact is not defined. So if there is error, it is showing us that it is going to the catch and displaying if there is any error. So now what I want to show you here is that if I go back, so what is happening is that it is coming in terms of object. Now if we want to get in the JSON string, because right now it is coming like this, and then we are opening it and then checking it. So the best way to do is instead of writing as result like this, what we can do is, so we can pass result as this to check how is it coming. And then if I deploy, then you will see the difference, and you will understand that by using the json.stringify, we are able to convert the JavaScript object to the value of JSON string. So because we are passing the result, so we are saying that undefined passes in the error, and when there is error, then pass the error in the error property, and put pass undefined in the contact property. So this is the way we write it, but you don't need to necessarily write this. But basically we also clear that okay, when there is no error, then pass the undefined in the error. So see, you can see that earlier the result was coming like this, and then after that we are able to see the error like this. The results are like this. So basically now it is coming in the JSON string format. So whatever the results are there, they are coming like this. So this is our first example. Now that we understood the basics of exactly how it works, we will go a little bit more deep, and we will do Apex imperative method with parameters in Lightning Web Component. So again, it remains the same that we in the last session we understood about the percentage operator, that whatever value we put in between that, it says that in whatever position it is, return that. So it exactly remains the same. So let's see. But before that, I just want to show you one more thing. I said right that it remains the same in case of wire property. So where the different comes in, let's observe that as well. So if I go to the let me open that. Yes. So you see here, I have put HTML. Okay. So here contact display, what is happening here is we are using wire property, and here we are using imperative. The reason I have opened them side by side is to understand it better. Just give me 1 second. Imperative with JS. Yeah. So if you see here is that here we use wire, but when it comes to imperative, the right side is imperative method, left side is wire. So if you observe here, we don't need to write wire, and then or anything else, we are just getting lightning element from LWC module, and after that we import in the same way. You can see that even the method we are importing is the same, get contact list, and then we are passing the parameters in same way. Here we are getting error or either data we are passing, and then what if there is data, we are passing in contact property, and if it is error, we are passing in error property. Now here we are using the promise, and in the promise, in the result we say that if it is result, then pass in contacts, and if like instead of result you can put it as value, and if there is error, then put in error property. So it remains the same. Now if we talk about the template, it exactly remains the same. So if I am talking about HTML is already there. Okay. So now we are observing the HTML side by side, and now if you see the iteration, see this one, this is the wire, and this is the right side is imperative. And if you see, we are doing okay, checking the contacts, if they are contacts, then iterating through contacts and name and phone, and you can see exactly the same way we do it. The difference lies in JavaScript. There we are in the wire, it is data error, in the imperative it is property. So I hope that now this is clear to you, all of you. And if you see the output, it exactly looks the same. So this is the output from the wire, and that remains the same. So you see that again we are just displaying, the only difference is that in the imperative, on the click of button we were displaying it, so there was a control over the invocation, so we were using imperative. Here we are just loading the data, so we are using wire, which is best practice to use, and it is displaying in the same way. There is no change in the output. That is the reason we need to understand that when to use wire and when to use imperative, because when in both way we can perform the same logic, then why to go with imperative of wire? So it is better to use wire whenever we are not making DML operation, and whenever we are needing DML operation and on the click of button we want something on basis of some event, that time we are going with imperative. So a simple example is clear to us. So now we will go one step ahead. So now basically what we are doing is that on the click of button we want to display, we want to do the search functionality basically. So let's see the output first to understand it better. So here let's check the contact. So let me check once. So see, we are getting the contacts. Now that is on the search, we want to do something. If you remember correctly, we did the same with the wire, but there we were not doing on the click of button. There on the change, we were doing that on the under handle change. we are able to display the list. Now if we go back here, what we are doing is, and if you also notice on the page load we are not getting anything. When we put value here, whatever the name is, on that basis we are able to get the result if there are any. So here if you see, let's go to HTML and then understand it in more detail. So we have created an input, that is lightning input, and basically there is handle key change. So if you go back, this is handle key change, and handle key change is having the search key value. So what we are saying is that even that target dot value, whatever the value is there, we want to pass it to the search key. That is a property. So we will be passing it to this property. So what is happening when we are making any change? So we are passing it to the search key property. Once we have passed it to this search key property, what will it do is, it will keep it there. Then on the click of the button, that is on the click of handle search, what it will do, there is handle search, in that it will pass the parameter. So basically whatever value we have, it will pass this. So this is search key, right? So this is your search key, and if you go back to the contact master, see, we are doing find contacts on the basis of the key, whatever key we are passing. And see, here we are saying that whatever name is there in between it, you get that particular list. So get ID, name, contact, where name is like this particular key. So wherever this key is coming, get that and limit it to 10. So basically get 10 contacts. So if I am putting Smriti, so whatever is there, so Smriti will be here, and whatever value in between is, just put whenever Smriti is in whichever position, get those contacts. So then what will happen, it will get us the contacts. Now we have those contacts in our result section. So now it is having there in the result, we want to show it in the UI, so we want to pass it in the property, and if there is error, again we are passing in the error. So if I go back, simply what we are doing is that we are putting the template, and there we are passing the contacts. So you can see that we already covered the first part, Apex with parameters, but Apex imperative method with parameters, the only difference is that we are passing the parameters, and on the basis of that we get the search and get the results, and we perform that action. So that's how it works for us. Again, you can go ahead and put the console log and see how the values are coming to understand it correctly. But the objective is that firstly create your input, create your button, create the template, and then pass the values. And if you go back to that Apex, we are able to get according to what we are displaying. So now that we have understood with parameters, without parameters, it's time to do some good use case. So now what we will do is, we will search and close opportunity using imperative methods. So let's see. So you see, whatever name we are putting, on that basis we are getting the list of opportunities. So you see, we were just checking the simple example, and from there we are able to get to the more complicated example, which is more real usage. So if you practice the basic examples, it will be much easier for you to understand it. Now for example, I take OPP1 and I do close opportunity. So what will happen once I do the refresh and check again? So because there are multiple ones, otherwise this OPP1 is closed one. If we want to check and confirm about it, let's go to opportunities. So you can see there is OPP1, and we said that okay, make it closed one. So you can see it is closed one. And you, if you want to confirm that if it actually worked, see, earlier it was in prospecting, and then it changed to close one, and date is today. So we just change it to the close one from prospecting. So that is the use case we are performing. We are not only just searching right now, we are passing the value according to, for example, we want to close it, we close it. And one more thing, why I'm making you observe this, see, right now on page load nothing is coming. We, till now, what, whenever we were making any changes, only then we are able to see. So this is some use case which we will be seeing later, that on the page load also we want it, but right now we just want to see that okay, if there is an opportunity, we click on close opportunity, then how exactly it is working. So I will go there. So this is our opportunity manager class. So let's see what exactly is there is happening. So first one is like fetch opportunity details. So what we are passing, we are passing name. Okay, so we are saying that if name is not blank, so we can make the, we can put the check and all. So we are saying that if it is not blank, then again, so if we are putting, for example, OPP, so even OPP1 is coming. Or for example, we are just putting O. So for example, laptop, O is in between, right? So what it means to say is that whatever is in whatever position it is, get all the ones having O in it. So it will get all the ones, all the ID, account name, name, stage name, close date, where there is O in it. So like that it works. Now let's see. The first part we have already done multiple times, that is adding the search functionality. So if I go back, so here again, simply you create the lightning input. You can again go with the styling you want to, and then you have the template which we will see in a while. And then in the template you can have the button which I showed you, and then you can have the stage name and closed one. We will be again checking in it in more detail. So let's see step by step. So what happened? First of all, we want to get fetch opportunity details. So fetch opportunity details is the method name from opportunity manager. Now see, just focus here. What we are doing is, there is opportunity name change here in your lightning import. Again, on change, what you do, opportunity name change. So there is opportunity name change, and because there is an event that is on change, so whatever on change, what is to in the whatever is there in the value, pass it in the search opportunity name. We are putting this in the search opportunity name, and then what we are doing is, now this search opportunity name, OPP name, how this comes, OPP name is coming from here. So what we are doing, we are passing whatever name we got, we are passing in the OPP name. And once we pass it, so once we pass, for example, OPP, so once we pass OPP, then it will get us the result, and that particular result we will be passing again the opportunities. And if there is error, then we are putting in the error details, and then this opportunities we are passing here. So if you see, opportunities are here, and then we want name, and again we want to put a stage name, close date, whatever we want, we are passing it there. Now if I go back here, this is how we are able to do it. Now if you talk about the button, so what we say is that if the button is, if it is closed, if there is closed, so whenever the opportunity is closed, only that time, if it is closed, then it shows already closed. And if it is not closed, then what you do, create a button with name opp.id, put the value here, and then label, and on click, and then whatever data is there, we are passing it here. So basically the logic remains same what we are doing till now. So this is fine. Now if we go ahead, we say that, for example, I want to close test company 126. So it is coming as close one opportunity. So now if you go back and see in the opportunity manager JS, so what exactly we are doing. So if I go here, now this is something important to understand. So we are taking action from UI to backend. So we will be starting from here. So what we are saying is pass opportunity to close. So from where it is coming? From this, on the click of button, execute some action. So we are saying pass opportunity to close. Now again, event.target.name. So if you go back here, it is having the name. So opportunity.id is being stored here in the name. So because it is stored in the name, we say event.target.name, and then we pass it in the opportunity id property. Once we pass it in the opportunity id property, what we want to pass it, we want to pass it to the apex, because there we want to do the close of the opportunity. So we pass the opportunity id. Once we pass it here, what it happens, it gives us the result, which we will check. Whatever the result is there, on that basis we are able to see the close opportunity. So if you see here, now something to notice, this is imperative, you already know. Now this is imperative. Now we are wanting to wanting our stage from prospective or any other stage to closed one. So now we are performing DML operation. So because we are performing DML operation, so for that we have to use imperative. So and that also we are executing on the click of button. So we want to control the flow invocation. So again we are using imperative. And DML we can only perform whenever so basically cacheable equal to true. We can here also write it in imperative. It is not must, but if we want we can write it. But in this case, whenever we are performing DML, we don't have to write cacheable equal to true. And then here if you see, what we are doing is, we have to notice that subjects are the objects of Salesforce. So opportunity is nothing but the object of Salesforce in which we are storing the data. So what we are doing is we are creating the instance of it, and because we want to access the stage name or whatever we want to access, because of that we are creating the instance of it. Once we are creating instance, we are passing the ID, and that is opportunity ID. We are passing it, so we are getting it from our JavaScript, we are passing it here, and then we are putting stage as closed one, and then we are doing the DML operation of updating it, and then we are passing the success message. Otherwise we are passing the error. So now we are doing this, and then whatever the result is there, so there is a result return. So whatever we are getting the return, we are passing it inside the result, and then the result is having we are passing in the opportunity close message, and that's how we are able to do this. So like that, whatever we close, we are able to see it inside our if we go here, we can see whether it got closed or not. Now we will be doing search in closed case using wire service and imperative method. So now we will be using wire service and imperative method together. So earlier what we observed is that there was search button, and only once we were searching, only then on the page that particular value was coming. For example, opportunity name, so we were searching the opportunity name. If we want on the page load all the values, and on the search of it we want to have something, so what will happen at that point of time? So for that we are using here wire service and imperative method together. So till now we learned what is wire service, how exactly it works, we learned about imperative. Let's see together how it works. So now you see the whole close case, so whole case scenario, we are getting it here. it is coming on the page load. Now if I want to search, is our search functionality working? So see, our search functionality is also working like in earlier case, but here on the page load we are able to display all the results. That is different from the one which we were doing earlier. Let me refresh the page. So this is how it is coming, and then if we are closing the case, so then it gets closed as well. So whatever case we are closing, again we can close it, we can see, and see this is already closed is coming. So like that it is working, and then if you go to the UI just to confirm it is working or not, so quickly go to cases. So this is the one recently viewed. So this is, you can see as closed, and you can even check in the history that it just got closed. So like that you are able to get it. So you can see that the status that it got closed, that is the latest status, it is on 8/23. So like that you are able to do it. Now let's see the code for it. So there is this slight modification in it, and that is the display. Otherwise everything remains the same. So if we talk about the JS, so first of all what we are doing is, see, we are using wire and imperative both here. So you can see here is the wire we say fetch all cases. So let's go to the developer console and see. So this is case manager. So we want to get all the cases. So simply we have said that return, and then we are getting all the return from cases. So now what we have done is that we say that fetch all cases. So we have imported it, and now we have set cases. So cases is nothing but the property which we have declared. So what will happen once I go to the case manager.html, here I have to put cases.data. That is important. Whenever there is a function, then we don't need to write the data, but whenever there is property, whenever we are passing in property, so there is data property or error property, so we have to put cases.data. That is if data is coming. So now we set cases.data, and here we are able to display the whole list. Now we have created an input button. This is the input button, and here we say that on change of it, pass the value, that is search case number there. So you can see that there is search case number, and on the change of it we are passing in this. Once that is done, what we are doing it, we are searching the records. Again, to search the records, we are saying that there is fetch case details. So we have created another apex where we have put cacheable equal to true. Again, it is imperative, so we don't necessarily need to write cacheable equal to true, but we are writing cacheable equal to true. Why? Because basically it increases the performance, because it stores the values in the browser, and it reduces the trip to server. So whenever possible, put cacheable equal to true. Now we put cacheable equal to true, and then again same thing, we are getting the case number, and based on that we are able to search the cases. Once we have and then we are getting the value. Again, notice we are getting the value in cases dot data. Why? Because earlier we were displaying in the property, so because of that we have to write data. If you remember earlier, we were just putting opportunities, we were not passing dot data, because we are using here the property. So here we are putting cases dot data, because it returns in data property or error property. And then we say that if the case is closed, then perform a particular action. So whatever id we are passing, so we are putting that in the property, and then again the same thing, that we are passing the id to our apex, and exactly same snippet of code we are writing, which we can pass ahead right now, but we put the status as closed, and then whatever we are put, we are getting in the result, and that we can get in the case close message. So the thing to observe here was that we are using wire and imperative together to get basically on the page load, and once we do the search, then we just get that particular case id. So that's how this works, and here you can see that search functionality is there, so we are using imperative. So now this is clear to us. So this is a simple use case which we did earlier, but the difference was that in the last use case, whenever we said lemon, then automatically on that input itself we were getting it. But now, because on the click of button we want to get it, so again we will be using imperative. Now thing to notice that on page load we are getting it, so we can use wire. Then we are doing the search functionality and executing some action, so there we are using imperative. So let's quickly check the code. So the HTML remains the same about the input and the button and then the template we are having. Again, if you see about the JS, so see, you can even pass using the function, you can write the complete function, but obviously we have discussed that instead of writing a big line of code, writing the function, it's always recommended to use the wire property. So we are passing in the get my products, and because we are getting data or error property, so we are putting it as get my products dot data, and this will happen come because of this we are getting on the page load. So if we go here, product manager, so we are getting the list of products, because and this is get products, we are getting that. Once we get that, that on the change of the value, change search value, so this is the input, and we say that on the change search value do what, you even dot target dot value, pass this in the property, and then simply the same thing, this is find products, we want to pass the values which we are passing, and we are this is the search key, this is from your apex, so you can see the search key, so whatever value we got in this one we are passing in the search key, and then again whatever the result is there, for example we are checking lemon cake and we do the search, so whatever value we are passing we have to pass it here. So like that it works. So now our important use case, and that is search functionality in Lightning data table using Lightning web component. So let's see how exactly it works. So let's understand what is Lightning data table and exactly how it works, because it is very common use case. So earlier approach was that we were doing it in the table format, so we were getting the data from server, then we were using the table HTML element, and then we were using or iteration or normal iteration in the LWC in the component markup, and then we were applying the SLDS styling to it. And but now the Lightning data table came in the existence and got released in 18 release, and it is a base component, and it simplifies the process for us basically. So we just have to set the columns and data attribute to display the columns, and we don't need to create a table, so we will be checking that in a while. So you can see that Lightning data table is having following attributes. So it has key field, column, data, and hide column checkbox. So to understand this, not theoretically but practically, let's go here and open it side by side. So this is our HTML, and let's see what functionality firstly we are going to achieve by this, so that we are more clear on what we are doing. So you can see we are getting this is like our Lightning data table displaying list of account name. So these are account names, whatever names are there, type, annual revenue, phone, website, and rating. I have put the limit to 15, I think 25. So according to that we are getting 25. So we will be seeing that in a little bit more detail. So and then let's do some search. For example, I put Smriti, so I'm getting this particular account name. So like that I'm able to do this particular functionality. So let's see how it works. So now if I go back, so if you see I have got name, type, revenue, phone, website rating. But if you see in the template, we just have input button, there is a button, and then you see the template is so small, right? Where are we passing the whole data which is showing there? So like that, there is data column, height, key column, and key attribute of lightning data table. So it's more simpler way of writing, and it is having the more functionality. So if we are saying about the data, which we will be discussing in little bit more detail, but like you checked in template, right? So for example, if we were getting contacts, so we were here we were putting that particular property. The same way, if I go to the JS, here we are passing the values in the ACC list. So again, this is a property, in this we are passing it. So that particular data we are passing here. What is columns? So now let's go back to what it says. So data, the array of data to be displayed. Then we are talking about the columns. So what is columns? So you can see here above. So we just talk about name, type, annual revenue, right? So here is the label name which comes here, then the name, and then the type. So like that we are able to put it here. So if you see, array of the columns objective that is used to define the data types. Required property include label, field name, and type. So you can see here there is label, field name, and type. And if you go to the HTML, so here so you can see that here the columns are there, through which we are getting the header section. So we are getting the columns. Now the checkbox, so if you don't put the checkbox, hide checkbox, then you will be getting the checkbox as well. But I have put hide checkbox equal to true, so I'm not getting. And then we have the key field ID. So what is ID? ID is nothing but the unique basically it is associates to each row with a unique ID, and it is used for better performance, and it is a required attribute. All other ones are not required. So like that our lightning data table works. So now what is happening here? So what I did is, if I go back to our Apex, so guys, I'm little bit out of time, just give me 10 more minutes, so I will just complete it. So if we talk about the account manager class, so what we are getting, again we are displaying the list of accounts. So to display the list of accounts, what we are doing, if I go down, I'm using wired. Now you can observe that I'm using the reason this time I used wired as a function, not as property, because I wanted to show you that you can write as a function or write as a property. So you could have passed it as wire, um, wire, and then the name get account list, it's nothing but the method name get account list. And then we want to pass an ACC list, so we will be putting ACC list. So you could have written like this, and then everywhere you had to put data, account list dot data or account list dot property. But if you go back in HTML, we don't need to put account list dot data here. The reason being we are passing it through the function. So like that we can write. uh, Obviously if we are able to get it through this, why to line write so many pieces of code, right? So you can check that if you are getting it like that. So now coming back to the function, either we get error or data, and if we get data we are passing in account list. So now we are not writing account list dot data, right? Because here we get an object where we get error or data, and then in the error, whatever, if there is error, then we pass in the error details. So like that we are able to display um, accounts in our first search. Once we are able to display the accounts, what happens is that now we want to do the search functionality. So you can see that the way of writing remains the same. In how many examples I did it, so the reason to show you was 5-7 different examples from opportunity cases to accounts is that Even if we are showing lightning data table, you will see that it remains the same. Now we have to think that we want to search something, right? So what will happen? Again, search account name we will be passing here, and then again we will be checking that. So we would have created a particular fetch account details, and in that we are able to pass whatever value we are wanting to search. So we want to say that account name, so based on that get the values, and then we are passing that in the result. So like that it exactly works. And because we are using lightning data table, so now see this remains the same for whatever we are doing the JavaScript. The way we want to display, earlier we were using iteration, and we were displaying it in lightning card or something, so we were using it that way. Now we want to display it in the data table, so now we will be using lightning data table, and here we will say that acc list, because we are using the function, and like that we will be able to pass. So like that it works. Now going ahead, so we have covered a very important topic, wire and imperative. So let's understand some of the interview questions, so that we have a solid grip on this concept, because this is one of the most important concepts. So the first question is that, can we perform DML using wire service? So no, we cannot perform DML operation, that is insert, update, upsert, delete and delete, merge. We cannot do that. So if you remember, we can only receive the data. We cannot make changes to the data using wire service. We are just receiving it. And basically wire service delegates the control to the LWC engine, and we just perform the read operation to it. So we just access it, we just display it. So if you want to get the display list of records, we can do that. But we want to perform DML operation like close the case, we cannot do it using the wire service. And like that we do not have the permission to perform DML operation using the wire service. For that we have to go to imperative. So now next question is, can we invoke the apex method imperatively to DML operation? So you will say that we just discussed that yes we can do that, right? But one important point to note, so apex method, which is annotated with cacheable equal to true, cannot have DML method, even if we are using wire service or imperative. First of all, wire service we cannot perform DML, and we have to have cacheable equal to true. But in imperative it is optional to have cacheable equal to true, right? So when we want to perform DML operation, that time we should not put as cacheable equal to true. So that it's not a mug up for you. You see here we don't have to put cacheable equal to true, because we are performing the DML operation. So if we perform DML operation, remove cacheable equal to true and then use it. Then why do we need to set cacheable equal to true to a method? So we are talking and remembering to use cacheable equal to true. So basically it improves the runtime performance if we are using it. And to set a cacheable equal to true, so method will only get the data, it won't make any changes to the data, and it will be improving the performance, because it will reduce the server side trip, and it will store in the browser itself, and only when there is stale data, then it will go to the browser. And to set cacheable equal to true, method will only get the data and it won't be able to make changes to the data. So now if you want to use imperatively, so want to make changes to the data, you want to perform DML operation, so in that case you don't put cacheable equal to true. So like we just discussed, first of all we have to use it imperatively. Second, we don't have to put cacheable equal to true, because we are using the DML operation. So the setting cacheable caches the results on the client and prevent DML operations. So it will prevent the DML operation, it won't let it happen whenever we are putting cacheable equal to true. So we should not put it true. So these are the 3 interview questions which we covered in more detail. So our important topic is covered today. So I hope it is clear to you. So please practice on it, and we can discuss more on it. So let's check some questions. So there is a question that can we perform DML with wire? So we just covered it that no, we cannot perform. And to perform DML, we have to use imperatively, and also we don't have to use cacheable equal to true. So next question is that if we want to do some validation, then we are using imperative. So basically whenever we want to control the execution, that time we are using imperative, but the best practice is to use wire. So whenever we are just getting the data, not making any changes, mutating the data, not mutating the data, that point of time we are using wire. When we are just displaying it, sorry, otherwise we are using the imperative. So guys, our next topic will be lightning data service, but our till now we have covered a good part in LWC. So I would request you to practice these scenarios. So I will be putting all the code which we discussed today in our blog. So I will be doing it today itself, so that you can go ahead and practice all of the code. And today we practice like 5 to 6 examples, right? So you have to just, you will see that we start from the basics, and then whatever we practice the logic remains the same. So then you can again go and build according to your way. So I got a question that can we display the images in lightning data table? So I have not used images in lightning data table, but I can quickly check and see that if we can display. So I think I need to check on this, that can we display image or not. I'm not very sure of that. So I just checked and it shows that we can display the image. So let me quickly open it for you, so that we are clear on that part. So according to what it shows, and according to the quick review I saw, that it is showing the images. So we can see that it is a lightning data table and it shows the image. So it shows that we can display the list of images using the formula field. So yeah, it is possible according to what we are seeing. Sure, I can explain lightning data table in more detail if you want, because we need to cover pagination and some more attributes of it. So in the next session, I can cover that. So you asked that on change of input field is also imperative. So you can use imperative as well, but on change you can use wire service as well. So in my approach which I showed, I was using wire service, but again it's an event, so again you can go ahead and go with imperative as well, but try opting for wire service whenever possible. So guys, I think we are good for today, so I will be ending the session. Thank you so much, and if you have if you want to show some kind of project, I will try to implement that. So you can mail me whatever requirement you have, like whatever kind of projects you want to see, and we can work on that. So I'm just sharing my email ID with you. So I will try covering a topic like pagination and uploading PDF and some more examples of data table in the upcoming sessions. But as you see, the base we have covered for calling the apex. So now you can practice more on that, and then we can check. So thank you so much for the session.